our next speaker, which is my dear colleague Didier Jourdan. You will tell us a few words about how promoting gender equality and combating gender-based violence can contribute to health and education in general. Please go ahead, DJ.
Thank you very much, Rolf, and I'm really happy to give you ideas during this webinar, knowing that what's very important is to leave the floor to our colleagues from Armenia, because the key question is, on the one hand, of course, where do we want to go? But the question too is, so what? And we really need to have that kind of examples that help us to understand, how to move forward in terms of a positive masculinity and the work with the boys and the young men. I just would like to share with you 5 simple ideas. And again, to introduce the talk of our colleagues from Armenia. The one is about this question of the social norms and how we could contribute to influence them. The second is the kind of roadmap we could have about a positive masculinity. The third is about the participation of young boys and I would say young people in general, as Maria talked about. And then I'm going to put the focus on schools. Just because what we're going to talk about with our colleagues from Armenia with Teen Slides project is about what we call informal education. And it's also important to make the link and to articulate non-formal, informal, and informal education. And finally, to move to a call of action, because clearly it's timely. And these questions of linked to masculinity are at the very core of many social challenges. So the first thing is that harmful norms simply kills every day. And our role is to see what we could do. And probably the key word for that is our capacity to influence social change. Very often we are thinking from a kind of a magic wand perspective, having the idea that we could convince people. In reality, all that things are directly connected to very deep cultural, but also mediatic and economic determinants. And probably the most important thing is to, first of all, to focus on what are the determinants of this kind of norms, the toxic masculinity and the violence that is linked to it, and to see how we could contribute to influence these norms through education. And clearly, it's mostly a question of citizenship. Why? Because what we are talking about is clearly linked to the living together within our societies with people from different gender, different races, different ages, different communities, different cultures. And clearly what we have to do through this process of education to positive masculinity is to think it and shape it as part of the kind of compulsory citizenship education for every children and young people, but also, of course, adults in our societies, in order to contribute to challenge the stereotypes that are at the very core of the issue we are facing with gender-based violence. ID number 1. The ID number 2 comes directly from what I said. If we want to influence positively the social norms, we need to know where they come from. And in the education of young men, boys and young men, it comes also, of course, from families, peers, friends, communities, school system, the mass media, the media on demand, the social media, the cultural system, but also the primary care system. And that's why WHO works on its side on the way in which it's possible to fight against gender-based violence within primary health care. Having that in mind, it means that to move forward, we need to think through the triple, process of formal education, the schools, non-formal education, which is associations, sports clubs, space communities, scouts, and whatever you want, and the informal educational process. Remember how important was WhatsApp and the different tools developed, for example, by the IITE during the COVID times. So contributing to influencing the social norms through education means that we need to harness the power of formal, non-formal, and informal education. But of course, it's only one part of the process. And even if our webinar is focused on education, we also need to remind us that it's part, it's one of the pieces of the puzzle, together with the support for the victims, with the measures that ensure the accountability for perpetrators. And this focus on education has to be think as one of the different ways and means we have to move forward in that field. Concerning what to do and what we are talking about, if I mention citizenship from the start, this is just because the compass, the direction, is the one of the culture of the human rights that help us to build another kind of relationship with other people, and especially the one who are different, and to be able to take us distance with the social pressure, the media pressure, the peer pressure in terms of norms and stereotypes. This vision of education, as I said, is not limited to school, even if we're going to talk about school in a minute, but it's also at the level of the community. And this question of the stereotypes has to be taken into account in all the different dimensions of the social life of young people. I also would like to mention that within this framework, you also need to make space for the victim blaming process. That is one of the key issues. Violence is one thing, but this violence is very often hidden just because of the victim blaming. The third idea is about the participation, and Maria already talked about that. Within the UNESCO chair, we have a big project about the participation of young people in health promotion interventions. And it appears that it's still extremely difficult just because the power sharing, the fact that we are genuinely giving power to young people, children, and young boys in that case, is still extremely limited. And probably we need to think that probably in that case, if we have two ears and one mouth, is probably first of all to listen to the young boys and the young men about the social pressure they have on their shoulders and the way in which together with them we could contribute to reshape this norm and change these terrible toxic stereotypes about masculinity. And then the fourth idea is about the role of schools. But one of the big risks we have at this stage is to give schools the key role in every domain. It is about climate action, it is about environment, it is about violence, it is about multiculturality. All that things are extremely important. But at the end of the day, the key issue becomes for the teachers, the principals, the headmasters, to find a way to put all that things together in order to create an educational dynamic for all kids. And what research shows in our field is that working on the stereotypes and promoting positive masculinity in schools goes through three key dimensions. The first one is about what is taught in class. This is the curriculum. This is the tools that are used. And you all know that working on stereotypes, it's not giving lessons to learn. It's working also using the creativity, the emotion of the young people, using the incredible resources we have from children's book, from arts and different productions that will help to touch the people and to move forward with them. The second is, of course, about the school management. the social and the health services that have to be accessible, and also the link with the community, because there is no walls around the schools. They are directly connected to the social dynamics around them. So in practice, working in schools and promoting positive masculinity goes through the educational dimension, teaching what happens in the classroom, the school management, and the relationship with the community, and the partnership mostly with associations and different NGOs around. As I said from the start, schools are not magic wand. And then this three dimensions has to lead the schools to build plans, but they cannot be, one among others. You cannot have many different layers, different bricks. You need to put all that bricks linked to citizenship and including, of course, the prevention of gender-based violence and the promotion of positive masculinity. These bricks, like the Lego bricks, have to be organized to create coherence. And you could find different ways of doing that, but in any case, you always need training, support, resources, and social and technological innovation to support the people. There's many ways of doing that. You can base your school project on equality. You can base your school project on living together. You can base your school project on health promotion through what we are doing with another UNESCO institute. This is the UNESCO Institute for Lifelong Learning, in order to build health learning pathways all over the curriculum of the children and young people from preschool to high school, and working on the development of competencies, skills, and also knowledge about different themes. This has to be part of the policy of the school systems, knowing that at this time, only 32 countries on the planet have comprehensive plans linked to fighting against gender-based violence in the school system. So to conclude, clearly, we need to move forward now. It's really timely because you know that all over the planet, you have more and more social actors that are promoting different visions of masculinity than the one we are trying to promote here. And then we need to move forward also in thinking from the perspective of the boys, what role models, but also what kind of future are we offering to boys? And as Mariette said, it's the education of the boys and the girls about gender equality and gender-based violence. This is just the two sides of the same coin. Now, what we need to do is probably to contribute to support the states and the different actors. It's also to support the different partnership and, of course, to contribute to promote the remarkable initiatives as transforming mentalities in another continent and teens' life in Armenia. Over to you.